Welcome back. All right, so this is a video I've been wanting to make for a while, and it feels like now's a good time to make this video as we get into the trade deadline, and the Dallas Stars not looking like they're going to make the playoffs. They're currently 14-14-10, sitting outside a playoff spot, and they were the finalists last year, so more was expected of them, and yet Stanley Cup finalists taking a step back is kind of the way that works. So after Dallas failed to knock off Tampa last year, I immediately said, well, it was kind of a fun run. And that was nice, and kind of like along the lines of that's probably a one and done. And it's not a lack of faith, it's just that's kind of how it works. So on the board, I've got all of the Stanley Cup finalists in a row, and I did this all from memory because this is all I do. It's just memorization. It's not a sign of anything else. So 2019, the Boston Bruins were, of course, the Stanley Cup finalists. And there were people who said, see, Shannon's teams, Boston was a finalist in 2019, Dallas 2020, Vancouver in 2021. And I said, no. So in 2020, the Boston Bruins lose in round 2 against Tampa. And, again, since they were just finalists in 2019, where they lost to the St. Louis Blues, not necessarily a huge surprise. They don't win the Stanley Cup in 2020. 2018's finalists were the Vegas Golden Knights. That's, of course, their first year. And so it was surprising in 2019 when they lost in round 1 to San Jose in a very controversial manner, but they'd had a 3-1 series lead in that one. They probably should have finished it off before all of that stuff happened. So, yeah, that was surprising. But again, it's not that unusual for a team to go to the Stanley Cup and then the following year lose in the first round. And I think it says a lot about the amount of parity we have. So 2017, the finalists were Nashville. In 2018, they lost in round 2 against the Winnipeg Jets. 2016 finalists, San Jose. San Jose was a mild surprise. And then in 2017, they lost in round 1 against Edmonton. Of course, what's interesting with that is that the Oilers, that gave them an impression that they were pretty far along. And then, of course, they lost against Anaheim, controversially, in 2017. And the feeling was Edmonton was on their way up, which, of course, doesn't end up happening. The other interesting thing is, of course, Winnipeg would lose in the next round that year. San Jose ends up in the conference finals. Tampa Bay would win the Stanley Cup. So the other interesting part is not only do Stanley Cup finalists get knocked out the following year, but it's not always by teams that then go on to win the Stanley Cup. So there isn't really a pattern there that you can rely on and go, oh, since they knocked out a team that went to the finals last year, they've got a really good chance. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. 2015, the Stanley Cup finalists were the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, in 2016, they went to the conference finals and lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of course, the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2016 do, in fact, win the Stanley Cup. Now, Tampa Bay is the only team on this board that, after losing a Stanley Cup finals, actually wins the Stanley Cup other than Pittsburgh. That's it. Every other team on this board does not win a Stanley Cup after they lost a Stanley Cup finals. It's bizarre, right? Because you would think, well, they've been to the finals, they should be able to get back. Not necessarily. So, yeah, for Tampa, they win a Stanley Cup 5 years after they were finalists. 2014 finalists are the New York Rangers. This is during the height of Henrik Lundqvist's career. And then in 2015, they lost the conference finals against Tampa, right there, who would end up being Cup champions 5 years later. The Rangers, that was the start of that decline in 2015. And it was a slow decline, but the decline happened. 2013 finalists, the Bruins. So you can see the original Bruins logo, the Bruins' current third logo, they're similar. Very similar. 2014, they met up with the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, Montreal and Boston is a bad matchup for Boston. So Boston loses in round 2 against Montreal. 2012 finalists, the New Jersey Devils. That was a miraculous run for as an attempt to get Marty Brodeur a last Stanley Cup ring. You could just feel it, that they really wanted to get Marty Brodeur that last Stanley Cup ring. Ilya Kovalchuk had a great run as well. And yeah, everything looked good for New Jersey, right? And then in 2013, they missed the playoffs. So this is the first one that's missed the playoffs unless Dallas does it as well. So 8 years ago was the last time that a team that made it to the finals missed the Stanley Cup playoffs. 2011, the finalists were Vancouver, right? 2012, they lost in round one against the LA Kings, and historically so. They were still the President's Trophy winner, lost it in 5 games, almost got swept. They really looked like they were going to get swept by Jonathan Quick and the Kings in round one. So that's where it's interesting, too, because they are one of the few who gets knocked out by the eventual Stanley Cup champions. And, of course, in 2012, the amount of ridicule thrown at the Canucks after that round one loss was ridiculous. And it actually kind of kept up even after the Kings did prove that they were just that good when they won the Stanley Cup, or that Jonathan Quick was that good. I think part of it was that the Canucks were paying Luongo a lot of money. They felt that he was out goaltended by Tim Thomas in 2011, and he was out goaltended by Jonathan Quick in 2012. And I'm not going to argue that he wasn't, because those are two of the best goaltending performances I've ever seen in the playoffs. And yes, I can do a top 10 of the best goaltending performances I think I've seen in the playoffs in my lifetime, because top 10 lists are a way for the internet to let me know I'm wrong. So, in my opinion, I think this. No, you're wrong. I'm okay. So, so I always laugh when the opinion ones, people are like, you're wrong, but it's an opinion thing. So what do you think? And they think I'm wrong. So yeah, that was the start, of course, of the real downfall of the Canucks, was that 2012 loss, and then 2013 they get swept in the first round by San Jose. 2010, the finalists were Philadelphia. Now, how they got there was a reverse sweep of the Boston Bruins. So Boston had a 3-0 series lead. Philadelphia wins the next 4. So Boston remembered that, and then in 2011, they knocked out Philadelphia in 4 straight in the second round. So that's a Stanley Cup champion that knocked out Philadelphia, a Stanley Cup champion that knocked out Vancouver. So that makes you feel a little bit better about things, I guess. 2009. The Stanley Cup finalists, Detroit. The last time that Detroit was in the Stanley Cup final, which was 12 years ago. It's ridiculous it's been that long already. Because I remember Detroit just being an absolute machine on that ice. They lost in round 2 against San Jose in 2010. So for Detroit, they lose against a team that didn't win the Stanley Cup. They don't make it to the finals till 2016, San Jose. But for Detroit, we kind of knew that it was eventually going to happen, that constantly being in the playoffs would mean eventually they'd have to fall, right? Being the best would eventually mean what we're going through with Detroit right now would happen. 2008 finalists, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and an up-and-coming young Sidney Crosby. And, of course, they won the Stanley Cup in 2009. They won the Stanley Cup in 2016. They won the Stanley Cup in 2017. So they lose the finals before they win 3 Stanley Cups. And they become the dream, right? They and the Chicago Blackhawks, who have not lost a Stanley Cup final. So if they get to the finals, they win. For Pittsburgh, 3 Stanley Cups after they get to that Stanley Cup final. 2007 Stanley Cup finalists, Ottawa. And for Ottawa, they would lose in 2008 in round 1 to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who again were in the Stanley Cup finals in 2008 and won the Stanley Cup in 2009. So Ottawa just ran into an up-and-coming Sidney Crosby and the Penguins. Not much you can do about that. And 2006, and I stopped there because that's when we get into the salary cap era. I like to just delve with the salary cap era because before that, things were a little different. 2006 finalists were the Edmonton Oilers. And, of course, famously after that Stanley Cup final, you have the Chris Pronger situation, which leads to him being traded out. And they missed the playoffs in 2007. And Chris Pronger was not a very liked person in the city of Edmonton, which won't surprise anybody, but he wasn't very liked at that time. And so they missed the playoffs in 2007, and that would start them down this long path to a constant rebuild, which finally seems to be over as the Oilers have become a playoff team in recent years. Recent years meaning last year and this year, and of course 2017. So it's been a little better lately than it was before. So the overall numbers look like this, right? You've got 1 Stanley Cup. That's right here. The year after you're a finalist, you get a Stanley Cup. That's Pittsburgh. So that was over a decade ago, right? 2 Stanley Cup finalists have gone to the conference finals. That's 2014 and 2015. So that's rare. 5 round 2 exits. 4 round 1 exits. And so far, 2 that have missed the playoffs, it is likely that Dallas becomes number 3. So teams that end up going to a Stanley Cup final usually don't end up being all that successful the year after. Not when you look at playoff success. Most of them make the playoffs. Dallas would only, again, be the 3rd that's missed the playoffs after going to the Stanley Cup final. And there was a time before we had the salary cap where you seem to see that a little bit more often. But right now, there's just the 2 and likely soon to be 3. But I'm wearing Tampa because Tampa's the only one that, after being in a Stanley Cup final in recent years, have gone on to win a Stanley Cup later, like 5 years later. Again, for Pittsburgh, they were on their way up. And it was going to be, they were going to be this modern day dynasty. For Tampa, they went through a lot, including, a great season that ended with a sweep in the first round. And then they win the cup the year after. So the league is very, very unpredictable. So who's next on the list? Who's going to be the 2021 Stanley Cup finalist? Who will try to change this narrative? Who will try to come back in 2022 and prove it wasn't just a surprise run? But it's an interesting list, isn't it? All right. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.